Hey everyone, HardlyBriefDan here with episode 49 of the Unity Make an RPG series. Today we're going to go ahead and continue working on the enemy AI, and we might jump in and do a little bit of some GUI stuff for our battle system using the new Unity 4.6 GUI. But most likely we'll just keep working on the AI because that's what we started last time. If you remember last time, I'll go ahead and go over the script in just a second. First, I want to go ahead and fix this error that we have here. I apologize I left you guys with the error. I try not to do that. But basically, this error is pretty simple. Basically, we didn't return a base ability that we needed to return in our new script that we created. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and open that up in Model Develop. And that'll be the first thing that we fix. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control and use the mouse wheel to zoom in here in Model Develop so you guys can see it and see the code better. And basically, this is the script that we worked on last time. It's super simple. We did a few other things in the last video as well, but this is where we left off. And basically the idea for this AI script that we're going to be running here is based on a certain percentage, we're just going to go ahead and execute a move. Since I haven't created tons of abilities in this game, I don't have a lot to choose from, and therefore there isn't much AI to develop. So I'm going to kind of show you one way to do it. There's tons and tons of articles online about AI that you guys should definitely look into. I don't know too much. I haven't made too much AI, so I don't really know too much about it. I know there's the most common, or maybe not most common, but a very widely used AI topic, or I guess it's an algorithm, is the A star artificial intelligence, which you guys should definitely look into if you're interested. But I won't be covering that probably for a while because I don't know too much about it. But we're going to go ahead and fix this error, and basically all we need to do is go ahead and return a base ability. So I'm actually going to go ahead and create a private variable up here. It's going to be of type base ability, and I'm going to call this chosen. Chosen ability, like that, right? And I'm going to go ahead and just return this. So here we're just going to say in our if statement, we're just going to go return chosen ability. Goodness. I'm going to go ahead and hold Control and Shift, and then use the left arrow key to kind of highlight both of them. Control C to copy, and then Control V to paste here. And that should actually get rid of our error. Oh, we got unreachable code. Where are we at? Why is this? Oh, that makes sense. Because we're returning. I don't know why that just showed up now. Oh. There we go. Okay. So, sorry for jumping around there. But basically, if all these if statements fail, this needs to return something. So this is going to return ability. It'll probably return null eventually. But that's just the idea. What we actually could do is a switch case, which might look a little bit better here. Well, we talked about that last time. You can't do switch cases if you want to range. So what you need to do to get rid of the has no path to return, go ahead and add a return chosen ability, or just the ability that you want to be used here. Right now we haven't actually decided what we're going to do yet. But basically, return the one that you want as chosen ability and put it in each of the if and else if statements, and then put it at the end of the method here, and that error should go away. We got several warnings, but those aren't too big of a deal. So now I guess we can go ahead and I can either create a new ability, or I can just use the same two that we have. I only have two right here, attack ability and sword slash. So I guess that's what we'll use, sword slash as our ability. So we'll just say for now, I'm going to go ahead and say if player health percentage is greater than 75, I'm just going to go ahead and say create a new instance of that ability. So it's going to be sword slash, like that. So basically, this is the ability that we're sending it, saying, hey, this is the ability that the player that the enemy used. I'm going to go ahead and replace all these return statements just with that. And what we'll do here is if all this fails, basically if these if else statements fails, our chosen ability is going to be attack ability. So it'll be a little different. But now, again, this is where you're going to want to take liberty and kind of change this around, right? So you want, probably, if your player health is greater than 75% and you have a whole bunch of abilities, you probably want a stronger attack here. You could even go ahead and create like another function like this. You can say private base ability. Let's say choose appropriate. Let's say choose ability at we'll say 75%, right? So this function could be called instead of saying /, we could call this function choose ability here, and you could create some cool logic like this logic could be, I'm going to actually go ahead and just copy because we're going to return the same thing, but I just want to show you guys what you could do to kind of make this more complicated. Basically, you could say, okay, if we're greater than 75% health, then we can jump down in this choose ability at 75% and start doing some more logic. We could say, let's look at its stats. Maybe you want to first compare, maybe you want to have the enemy first compare your stats, or maybe check to see if a certain stat is higher than that other stat, and then you could choose the ability based on that. You could, I mean, it's the design's up to you. You know, I can't go through all these. I can't help you guys. I can't choose what you should do. But just kind of start thinking outside the box. Start thinking about how you want your design to feel. Do you want it to, this is where the enemy difficulty could come in. Do you want the enemy to basically almost win every time and just have it down to random luck, whether it chooses a good ability or not? Maybe the first thing the enemy could do, you could set up a function that basically says, hey, are my stats greater than or less than the player? If they're less than, is there something I can do to boost my stats for this battle? So let's say you have an ability that increases your player's strength, or the enemy's strength, and the enemy has that ability. You could say the enemy could look at the player strength and say that player has more strength than I do, and I'm a warrior, so maybe I need to buff up my strength. So I'm going to go ahead and use this attack. That's where you can look at those are the things you could do, or you could just randomly do it. You could have, if you don't want to be that technical, you could just have a pool or like a giant list of all your abilities that are available and say, hey, randomly choose one of these abilities and try to do it. You know, if you have enough energy or something. But anyways, here we're going to look at the player health percentage. If we're at 75% or greater, we're going to go ahead and use /, which this is just calling this simple function here. I'm just showing you guys this as a way for you guys to expand upon what we're doing. So now I'm going to go ahead and end Unity, and we're going to see where we left off. I'm going to go ahead and press play. I'm actually not in the scene that we need to be in, so I'm at our battle scene here. I'm going to go ahead and do /, and we should jump into enemy choice, right? So I'm just trying to remember where we had left off. So here we had a crit, and then we jump into enemy choice. Okay. So in our turn-based combat state machine, go ahead and open that up in model develop. So we're jumping into enemy choice, where we're saying enemy complete turn, which enemy complete turn is the other function we added here, I believe, wasn't it? Where is battle state enemy choice script? Okay, here we go. So basically, this is where we're at. This is now that we have our ability choice script done, we can actually go ahead and create an instance of it in our battle state enemy choice class script, or class, excuse me. And this is much like we've done before, where you basically say, private, the class name, and then you create a variable for it. So that's what we're going to do here, but for our ability choice. So we're going to create a private instance of it. It's going to be enemy ability choice. We're going to call it enemy ability choice script, like that. We're going to set equal to a new instance of that. So now we can access this public function, and we can send it the ability the player chooses, or we can return it, excuse me, so we can calculate it. So what we'll do is, now we're going to go ahead and choose the ability. We want to create another private function in here, or private variable, excuse me, of type base ability. It's going to be enemy choice ability. And then now we'll go ahead and copy that, paste it here, under our comment that says choose ability, and we're going to go ahead and run the enemy ability choice. So we're going to say enemy ability choice script dot choose enemy ability. And so when this function calls, it's going to go ahead and run this little algorithm or this little logic, and it's going to say, hey, our player health is greater than 75 at the start, so it's going to say choose our ability. It's going to run this little method here, and depending on how complicated it is, it will determine whatever move you have. In our case, we're going to go ahead and return /. So the chosen ability here is /, excuse me. So I'm going to go ahead and debug that, just so that we can know, that we're sure. So I'm actually going to make quotes. I'm going to say enemy choice. Actually, space there. I'm going to do a plus, and then we're going to say enemy choice ability. Can't find it. IntelliSense can't find it. I'm going to go ahead and copy that then. Paste it, and we're going to get the name of it, right? So this will tell us, it should say /, hopefully. If we have a weird issue, then we won't be able to do that. But now we need to go ahead and calculate damage. And I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and in our turn-based combat state machine, I'm going to go ahead and grab the battle calc script because we're going to need to use that script here. Well, actually, no, we don't. We can, what we can do is, what we can do is create an if statement in our, so we don't have to create another instance of this battle calculation script. We only need it once, really, so we don't need to do that. What we'll do is in our choose enemy state here, we'll actually just go ahead and change our, we'll change the, I can't think right now. We'll change the state. So what we'll do is we'll say, okay, well, now we need to go ahead and calculate damage. So we're actually going to change our enemy turn state. So we're going to say turn-based combat state machine dot current state is going to be equal to calculate turn-based combat state machine dot battle states dot calculate damage. Right. So now, what's happening here? Well, not equals, excuse me. So now we have our enemy choice ability, and we're going to be sending it, or now we have it, now we're going to go put it in calc damage. Now there's one, I guess you might be able to tell, there's a couple problems with this. One, we can't access this variable. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and copy this private variable here that's in battle state enemy choice. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to go into our turn-based combat state machine script, and below the public static base ability player used ability, I'm going to go ahead and paste the enemy one. I'm going to copy this public stack, replace the private, and I'm actually going to change this to player used or enemy choice to enemy used, just to kind of keep the same format. And we're actually going to manually set this in our enemy choice script over here. So instead of saying enemy choice ability with this private function, we're going to go turn-based combat state machine like that dot enemy used. I should be able to find it. Let's see. Used enemy used ability. Oh, I spelled enemy wrong. That's why. Excuse my phone going off. So like that. I have a spelling error here. I'm going to go ahead and fix. I spelled enemy or enemy instead of enemy. Right, there's an N. So controls to save that. Going to go back into our enemy battle state enemy choice. We have the correct variable in there now. I'm going to go ahead and copy that and replace this. What is wrong with that now? Oh, we need to go ahead and copy this whole statement here. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, the reason why we're just going to manually set this public static variable is, one, it's static, so that we always know there's only going to be one enemy used variable, right? Now, so once it's stacked, we know that. Now we can go ahead and just set it like that. We can since it's public, we can access it anywhere, and it's going to allow us to use an if statement or some type of logic in our state machine when we're actually in calculate damage battle state to determine who we need to calculate, or what ability we need to send it. Now, hopefully that's not too confusing. Hopefully. What we're gonna do now is in our turn-based combat state machine, And actually, at the end of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll try to re-explain everything, make sure you guys all totally understand. And if not, again, leave it in the comments below, and I'll try to address it. But what we need to do is create an ability to look at our previous state. Okay, and the reason I want to do this is because when we jump down our calculate damage here, right away we have this function called where we send the player used ability. So in our player battle state enemy choice here, if we change our current state to calculate damage, it's going to act like the player did the ability. But what we need to do is say, hey, what was our previous, or who was the previous person that just went? Was it the enemy or was it the player? And then if so, send it the player used ability or send it the enemy ability. So what we'll do is we'll create another private static variable, or public static. This is going to be of type battle states. Like that, right? And we're going to say previous person turn, previous user turn, I guess. No, I'm trying to think. Actually, we'll call it current turn. I'm trying to think of how I want it. Current, we'll say current user, I guess. Current user works. Basically, this variable here is going to be enemy choice or player choice. So what I want to know is say, hey, if our current user is enemy, meaning it's still the enemy's turn, we haven't changed our turn status, then we want to go ahead and send the enemy used ability. If it's not, then we want to send player used ability. So when we switch, so what we want to do is when we go to player choice, in player choice, we want to go ahead and say our current user is going to be equal to player battle states. I guess I think I just battle states dot player choice, like that. So when we go to player choice, we're going to go ahead and set our current. We're going to set our current user to player choice, meaning our user is player. And now when we go to enemy choice, we're going to go ahead and set it to enemy. Now, hopefully you understand that. And that's going to allow us to go ahead and do two things. One, in our add status effects, we can do the same if statement that we do in calculate damage. So in our calculate damage battle state, we're going to go ahead and create an if else statement. And it's going to be if our current user is equal to battle states. I think I might be getting sick. Battle states player choice. Then we want to go ahead and run this little piece of code. And this little piece of code is our player used ability, right? So now but if that doesn't work, so if our current user is equal to enemy choice, then we're going to go ahead and run, instead of player used ability, we're going to go ahead and run our battle script, but for our enemy. Now, brings me to another problem. Well, I don't know, not really a problem, but another thing that we talked about was I said we were going to create another way to calculate damage, and we will do that. But first, I'm going to go ahead and just call calculate total player damage using our enemy used ability first. We can go ahead and redo we can create another method later. That's not super important. So in our turn-based combat state machine, we're going to go ahead and call the same function, but instead of sending it a player used ability when it's the enemy's turn, we're going to go ahead and send it their enemy used ability. Now, hopefully, I haven't created too many errors here. I'm going to go ahead and press play. We're going to do a // We're going to see what happens. Okay, so right away, I have paused the game. We jumped in here, and you can see it's actually going back and forth. Hopefully, you can see that. So basically, what's happening? Let me find out where we did. Okay, so here we go. We had player choice. I chose // So we added a status effect. It applied the effect. We did all that. We calculated damage, and we crit for 276. So right away, the enemy choice went. It went down to /. We went down to calculate damage, and it did all that. But now we're not actually ending. We're stuck in our enemy choice here, it looks like. So what we need to do is actually call this check to see who goes next function, I believe. Oh, we never complete the turn. That's exactly what needs to happen. Which, so in our battle calculations, we have this thing here where it says did player complete turn equal true, and because we have a function, I'm going to actually go ahead and just copy this entire function, right? This entire method. Remember, we set this up so that you can have. The reason why I did this was I set it up so that you guys can have two different formulas basically for your player and enemy. And a good reason to do that, or it could be a bad reason, but a good reason I think to do that is so that it allows you to kind of change how difficult an enemy is. So the enemy doesn't exactly like the player. And maybe you don't want to do that, but if you do, it's okay. Just I've set it up so that you can do the alternative even if you don't want to. So I'm going to actually go ahead and copy this public void calculate total player damage method. I'm going to go ahead and paste it below here, and I'm going to change player just to enemy damage, right? So everything else is going to stay the same for the most part. Instead of enemy damage, so I changed the name to calculate total enemy damage, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the turn-based combat state machine dot player did complete turn. I'm going to change that to enemy did complete turn. I'm going to set that equal to true. And now back into our turn-based combat state machine, we're going to go ahead and call that function instead. So here, when the current user is enemy choice, meaning our enemy is currently going, we're going to go ahead and say battle script dot calculate. It's going to be dot calculate total enemy damage, and we're going to go ahead and send it the enemy used ability. I'm going to go ahead and clear our console here. Press play again. I'm going to hit /. I'm going to pause the game, and you can see that our turn is ending. So the enemy choice went, we did /, we calculated damage, we actually crit on it, and then we ended our turn. And actually now it's just stuck. But that's okay. We're actually completing an entire turn now, which is what I've been wanting to do. I wanted to show you guys. So hopefully you can kind of see it taking shape. The idea here is at the start, if you remember going way back a few videos ago, we said based on our luck, we're going to figure out who goes first. Based on whoever has greater luck, the enemy or the player, they're going to go first. They're going to, so right away in this example at level 1, our player has more luck. So the player will go first in this. When it's the player's turn, you get to choose your ability. And I talked about different ways you can set that up. I only have 2 abilities, so I showed the 2 with the GUI buttons. And then when you hit a button, it takes that ability. We look to see if it has status effect on it, and we add it. We add the status effect, and then we go ahead and calculate the damage. And the damage hasn't actually been done, but it's been calculated, so it's there. We output that to the console so we can see it. And then after that, we switch to the enemy turn, or whoever was next. We switch to the enemy turn in this case, and the enemy goes ahead and decides, hey, what ability should I use? And this is the logic in this enemy ability choice script here. It's not really complicated because I don't have a lot of abilities. I've talked about some ways that you guys can kind of create your own AI, your more in-depth way to do it, and that's like I was saying before, you can look at stats, you can compare different stats. Maybe you only want to look at the player's stats or total output damage at the beginning and not later on. Maybe you want your enemies to be more defensive, and when they get super low health, they just concentrate on keeping themselves alive. That's all up to you, and that's all how you want your game to play out. And I can't go through all those things, but I showed you kind of a basic way to set that up and kind of how all these abilities interact with each other. So once the enemy chooses its ability, we go ahead and return that from that function into our battle state enemy choice. And in our battle state enemy choice here, we go ahead and say, hey, we get this ability, we go ahead and set it, and then we change our state. This is a very, very simple script, and you probably don't even need this entire script. I made it a separate own script just in case it does get complicated in your project. So once we change states, we calculate the damage, we do all that. And that's basically it. Now we've completed the turn. We need to go ahead and go back to the start and say, okay, well, now that I've completed the turn, players completed the turn, we need to go say, are we dead yet? If we're not dead yet, then we need to go ahead and restart. We need to say, it's the player one's, it's the player's turn again. They need to go ahead and do their damage. So that's what we're going to work on the next few videos. In the very next video, I'm going to go ahead and do a video on the 4.6 GUI. We're going to go ahead and change around the GUI. So instead of these buttons here and this next state button here, I'm going to go ahead and change up the GUI. We're going to upgrade it up to Unity 4.6, and then so that we can definitely look at players' health and stuff and get the numbers actually involved. And then we'll look at, you could probably guess on how we're going to basically, to complete the turn, have it go flip back and forth between the player and enemy. You're just going to change those did complete turn bool values, right? So if you want to do that now, go ahead and do that, and then you can watch the next video where we go over the new Unity 4.6 GUI and upgrade our battle system to that. And then basically after those a couple videos there doing that, we're going to be finishing. We'll fine-tune, finish up the battle system, and we're going to move on to an inventory system. So hopefully you guys will look forward to that. Thanks for all the support. Please comment, comment, leave a message if you will. Tell me what you learn. Tell me what you want to see. Let me know, and I'll talk to you guys next time.